What's up, everybody, and welcome to Peeling the Banana, episode number 6. And today's guest, she is the Mind Body Athlete Development Specialist with the South Bend Chicago Cubs, or South Bend Cubs, which actually formerly used to be the South Bend Silverhawks, which I used to play for. So it's really cool. She's also the administrator for the South Bend Cubs Foundation, which is a nonprofit that works to provide youth athlete development programs to those in the community who otherwise would not afford access. And so now I welcome Amanda Alwine. Is that correct? Did I say that correctly?
You did, Amanda Alwine.
Mm-hmm. Well, welcome. It's an honor.
Yeah, so you were here in this good old city of South Bend, what, 2013, 2014?
13 and 14, when that field used to be synthetic turf all the way around, other than home plate and the mound, and it used to be called Four Winds Field, right?
It's still Four Winds Field.
It's still Four Winds Field.
It's still but this is a world different place than when you were here.
I know, I'm jealous. It's like got grass. They've updated it. They got like a whole new batting cages and facilities, and
yes,
I wonder what the locker room even looks like.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's fantastic. I'll give you a video tour sometime, but it's fun. Yeah, this facility that I work in, it is the Performance Center here. Wasn't here. It wasn't here then.
And that's part of the stadium, right?
Yes, it's part of the stadium. We sit here right out in right field, and we've got batting cages, the weight room, offices, and this is where all our athlete development takes place. So it's a state-of-the-art facility. I'm really, really lucky to get to work here. And funny enough, my general manager here, the guy who runs this whole shebang, is Mark Haley, lovingly known as Hales, who was your manager when you were here playing for the Silverhawks. So
my former manager, that's right.
Yes, yeah.
It's pretty cool to see that he ended up staying there. And isn't that his home, though? Isn't South Bend,
yes,
that area, like his home?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember after games, if we played well, he would offer, what kind of whiskey was it? What's his whiskey?
Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark. He has a handle in his office, and if we played well, he'd come out into the locker room and say, "Hey, motherfuckers, great job," and then pour us all a shot.
Yep, that's how he does. He still does that, no?
Yeah, he does. just hopefully everyone's of age, because I know that the facility now is like a place for clubs, and it's not only for the minor leaguers there, but it's for like kids and clubs and leagues and stuff.
In the off season, it's definitely a community facility. So we have, the major league, minor league guys who use this in the off season, but we also have, we are in South Bend, so we've got two major colleges. We got Indiana University, South Bend, and Notre Dame, and so we've got those players here that come in for just to use the facilities. We have all the equipment you could ever imagine, and for training. We have lots of different trainers and almost everything you could want as far as access to player development here.
That's super cool. So does Notre Dame players, baseball players, or any athlete have access to the facilities?
Yes.
If they wanted to, like during off season or...
Absolutely. Obviously, our Cubs players are our family. This is their facility. But we also have memberships where anybody can purchase a membership and book a cage or book time in the weight room. So it's available for a whole bunch of different purposes. We do have, elite travel ball teams here as well for, the kids who are hoping to be, I say kids, but you know what I mean? The people who are coming up hoping to be prospects, they're in that. So, and that is actually sponsored and run completely by the South Bend Cubs Foundation. So the South Bend Cubs Foundation and the Performance Center are, technically two separate entities, but come together, to work at one. We run that out of here as well and offer all the programs to all of our youth athletes. coming through the system. I think I love that the most. I love the idea that we can get them at this age and give them every proper advantage to not just be good players, but to be great people, to have access to developmental programs at this age instead of having to wait until they're further along in their journey, their athletic journey, whatever that may be, or however far that takes them. Um, they get to experience that on this level, and it gives them just such a wonderful advantage. Not just in baseball, but like we talked about in Ford before, just in life.
Right. Right. Like kids now are so spoiled with the resources they get now, where you can not only develop your skills as an athlete, but you're learning life skills at such a young age. Whereas back when I was playing, even guys before me, it's like we're learning as we're going, but we're not learning the good stuff until we're maybe past our prime in our sport. Whereas if we all think back, if we learned what we learn now back then, it's like, man, our careers could have been so much different. And these kids are just, I wouldn't say spoiled. They just have the access now. And I think parents and kid and coaches and mentors are realizing that we really need to help our younger generation.
Well, and that's it. It's just now coming into the idea that, you know, we're not just training an athlete, we're training a whole person. And before this just wasn't brought in, it wasn't thought of to look at these athletes as more than just machines that needed to produce and perform so that we could get the most out of them at the end of the day. Right now, we're seeing that we develop much better athletes who reach their highest potential sooner and for a longer length of time if we give them access to whole human development, the mental side, the emotional side, bringing into all of the obstacles they might face. Some people are coming from different countries. We have a
Hmm.
lot of things that will help that you know come into play. Um, so to make the transition more effortless gives us just it just I don't
It
want to
makes
say
your job easier when you're giving the kids the tools that they need, and then it's up for the kids to use those tools.
right. And if you
You can
and if
only
you
push a kid so far if
yes,
they don't want to be pushed.
right. And if you create an environment in which that they feel they can and they want
Hmm.
to, then it's amazing how humans, but kids, younger people in general will, they kind of rise to the occasion naturally.
Yeah, because they
When
have the support, they have the family,
yeah,
they have just the like-minded people around. I mean,
yeah,
life is basically like you are who you surround yourself with, and it's usually the top five people that you are around with most of the time. So, I mean,
right, 100%. Yeah.
the fact that these kids are surrounded by some of the smartest, most intelligent, highest work ethic, people that have gone through it and have the experience like you have,
Hmm.
it really helps those kids out. Even the minor league guys, they're older and a lot more mature, but shoot, I'm 33 and I'm still learning about the game, learning about life and how to go about it. And so,
Well,
like,
and yeah, you have to remember these when people enter the minor leagues, they are still very young. They're very young. And they're also, facing the challenges of being thrust into kind of this environment. We're the first stop, we're high A now, but we're a lot of these people's first stop. So it's the ability to give them this kind of facility, this kind of developmental programs right off the bat. Um, Even for those guys, it's an advantage.
hmm and so your role specifically, it's not instructing kids how to hit, or maybe it
No,
is, but like
it's
your
not.
role, explain your role with the
You know,
with the Cubs, with the kids, the minor leaguers, everything that you
I
do to support them.
Well, and I come in kind of on, um, a requested basis. My services aren't thrust upon anybody who isn't interested in them. But when we meet challenges, or athletes meet challenges that they know, they have the mechanics for, they know that they've trained in every way possible to become the best athlete or baseball player they can be, but something's missing, or they can't fall into line, or they fall into a slump, or they're dealing with a time of disappointment, or something critical that it's those unseen things that we know. My body knows how to perform this. I've learned all the mechanics. I have a hitting coach, and I have every coach available to me. So what's this missing piece, and why do I feel like I can't access that? So there's usually a reason that we can't put our finger on, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional, whether it's something going on in their life. And my role is to come in and help them understand that and integrate it, and bring themselves back to this kind of mental, emotional, and wholeness state where that they are capable then of performing to the highest potential that they know their body and the mechanics that they've learned are capable of doing.
Because we all get drafted or get signed to a professional sport based on our athletic ability and the skill set everyone sees. But being a player for so long, if I just had mental coaching, like mind, body, spirit connection throughout my years, there's a lot more I could have gained out of playing, I guess. A lot more potential, in that time. I wouldn't say I had wasted time, just, playing, showing up every day and being like, oh, I'm athletic and I know what to do. But it's, what do you do when you're struggling and, you don't know what else to do? Because it's like, well, I know I'm good, but I have this limiting factor that's going on in my head, and I don't know what to do. It's like you said, we all have there's something missing, and very few people have that missing part to continue their career and become the greatest.
Right.
So how do you begin to help a player out? Or do you approach them? Are they approaching you? Or
usually they approach me. And like I said, I coach all ages. So a lot of times, if it's a high school player, a college player, they might be prompted by a parent who said, we've given them every other thing that we can do to support them. And except for this, this kind of this mental, emotional component. So let's try this out. When it comes to grown men in the baseball industry, and not even just then, I have clients who play in other sports as well, the NBA, golf. There's so many. The idea of the whole athlete applies to every person. I just happen to know baseball and be very comfortable in baseball,
mm-hmm.
and I've been on the baseball scene a long time. So this is where I am right now. But the first thing, every single person is different. So while I have a program and I'm trained in many different modalities, I can tell you that every single person that comes to me requires something a little bit different. There's really no by the book. Everybody's dealing with a different history. Everybody's dealing with a different current set of circumstances. Everybody has a different pattern in which they perceive things, and the best way for them to feel through and execute things. So a lot of it is just getting to know somebody and what's going on. We talk about the mental game, but what does the mental game mean?
Mm-hmm.
If we could all think ourselves to health and wealth and our, the best
Right.
athlete we could be, it would happen. Like, we all lay in bed and think and fantasize.
Life would be easy, but
life would be easy.
We have these demons in our head and these mind games we play with ourselves, with the devil on one side, the angel on one side, and we're, bantering back and forth, and it's finding that synchronicity between, everything, and finding that, I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is, but it's finding that even positive energy, that just something that makes us always, go back to what we've learned or what we're trying to instill in ourselves to be expressed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And there's, when we say the mental game isn't separate from our physical game or emotional game. And so the idea that we can somehow focus hard enough or think ourselves back to where we want to be or to a different state in life is true, but that's just one component of a grouping of things that you need for that manifestation to occur. So it doesn't just happen with thoughts and out of a vacuum. It happens when we tap into those things that we're pushing away, that we're not willing to look at, those things that, we all have those little things that we'll do anything to not have to think about or not have to face or not have to do. And the idea to kind of rip the Band-Aid off of that and expose those wounds so that we can integrate them in a safe way, and we can kind of make friends with the devil on our shoulder. Like you said, we have one and we have two. And the more
the bad and the good, yeah.
And the more we scream at the things we don't like about ourselves and try to push them away and try to create an energy of distance between them, the louder they get almost.
All right. Unfortunately, the more they attract.
So the idea is to find out what that is and to find out how we can reframe that into an energy of suffering or discourse, and take that exact same thing and reintegrate it and reframe it to an energy of learning, an energy of a power perception. Right? So it's like two sides of the same coin, our darkness or pain or things. You take it, and on the other side of that is an access to a bigger energy and more power. So we work on integrating those things so that our mind doesn't have to waste so much energy pushing away what we don't like.
Right.
What do we do with those thoughts? What do we do when, we can't stop? The more we tell ourselves to stop thinking about something, the more you think about it.
So like example, we'll do baseball. A guy is 0 for 3, and he knows he's coming up in the last inning to hit, and it's a critical moment. But as a hitter, like I'm like, well, I'm 0 for 3, I'm down the whole game. And as much as you like to think, you either think two ways. You're either like, yes, I have one more at bat to be the hero, or it's like, oh, I hope I don't get up in the next inning so I don't have to hit because I'm 0 for 3 and I'm just shitting on the day. It's like you have two different attitudes to go through that, and that's something I always battled through. Or you could even be like 3 for 4 on the day, and you're possibly could get a 5th at bat, but you're content with the 3 for 4 instead of thinking, no, I can go 4 for 5.
Right.
How do you have any tricks or a way of thinking that you help players with that?
I do. And the first thing that we do is like awareness of what we understand that we are bioenergetic beings. And this is where my learning first started. I first started learning into the bioenergetics of what it means to be a human, right? Pretty
So basically like
scientific
learning like from a cellular level.
Well, and we know we have electromagnetic impulses. This isn't just kind of like a woo-woo thing, like we can put electrodes on our heart and measure the energetic electroactivity.
No, but see, I think everyone doesn't realize like we are made of energy, because there are times where you will touch somebody, but you have it in like a shock in between. It's like, where's that coming from? It's because our bodies carry energy.
We carry energy. So we carry energy in many different ways in our body. Obviously, the ones that we know about that we can that our minds will kind of hop on board with is the energy of the brain, because obviously we measure the output of the brain all the time. Is your brain sending out electricity? It's alive. And the same with your heart. However, we have different electromagnetic impulses throughout our whole body. Every organ gives out a signal, so does every thought, so does, all of these things. So the idea, without, going into a lecture about what it means to be an energetic being, is that to just be aware of these. Because what happens is with our mind, the energy of our mind is supposed to work in coherence with our nervous system and the energy of our heart. When the mind gets too big, it literally takes the energy from your body, and it will almost get so big that it can separate itself. Like it will energetically kind of fragment. And this is where we have the time where we choke, we get the yips, there's things going on, and it's not because you don't know how, it's because the energy of your mind has become so big, it's fragmented itself, and there's no communication anymore between your mind and your body. So how do we shrink that down? We understand first that this mind is just basically an energy field, and if we can practice bringing it back in, and remember to bring it back down, and to get it in a little bit of coherence with that electromagnetic heart field that we have, then immediately they're communicating again, and your nervous system comes back down to a normal state. So this is where it can kind of feel scientific and almost, but it's really not, because I might be giving you or anybody else this new information, but when we sit back and think about it, we kind of know this, right? It's like a remembering of who you really are and what you really are. Because when you're in the flow state, when our mind and our body are working energetically and coherently together, everything we do seems effortless.
Everything works because you're in a green light.
Everything works.
It's like you're getting all the green lights. You're just going through.
And
it's like, why can't the world be like this every day?
It's right, and it's not magic. It's you. It's you, and everybody has this ability. There's nobody who doesn't. There's nobody who cannot be reminded and train who you are, to come back into that. And when you feel that, you're in your true self. Things are kind of clicking. And even when you make a mistake, then it feels different. Your body responds like, all right, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Even when you make a mistake, you're in an observing attitude about what didn't go right, rather than having a nervous system malfunction and the mind going off into another separate, tangent. And then once again, you've lost the ability to access the power within your body, simply because you lost your heart connection, right? So it's all about reminding to come, back into that. And remembering, be where your feet are, because if your mind is somewhere else, it doesn't matter if you're on the mound or if you're on the couch with your friend. If you aren't there, you aren't there.
Right. Like don't expect a good outcome even though you're physically there when you're mentally in outer space.
Right. And this takes practice. You'd be surprised if, when we're training, when I say, I want you to try to set a timer and spend 1 whole minute just feeling kind of the center of your body and focusing on your breath. And the first time you do it, you can only do it for 5 seconds. You can do it for 10, and then you can get into these bigger intervals. So it's just like weightlifting. You're training that muscle, you're training that connection. And eventually, if you train it long enough, it will happen. It's just like it will start to happen. Just like lifting weights. You don't go to the gym, lift once, and come home, and you're like, you know that you're on the right course, and you will keep doing it until you see the results. But not just see the results, feel the results, because your body feels different. You feel stronger. You feel more safe in your body. Well, it's the same thing with training your energy. It's the same thing with working on your mind and body connection. It's a muscle you train, and you train it for years until it becomes your normal state of being.
Right. It's basically like focusing on the process rather than the outcome, which in baseball, maybe in all of life, we're always focused on the result, on on production, on outcome, on the end that we want, rather than focusing on the process, which is like, if you want to be a great hitter, how do you become a great hitter that hits 300 or more? What's
Right.
that process look like? And those are the questions you have to ask. Is if you stick to the process, like a lot of my mentors and coaches say, you'll get the results. Like, you might not get it right away, but it's having the patience to
Right.
know and trust yourself on that process.
Right. And the mind-body connection that is so vital to not just athletes, but everybody to feel, even, if you make this connection and then follow it, your whatever purpose, whatever soul purpose you're in at that moment will lead you to the next and lead you to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And that feeling of what you're supposed to do, it becomes more intuitive and it's louder. And we can feel that now because we haven't sent our thoughts off on a tangent that is separate from our body, or they left a magnetic field of our heart that is always processing information of stuff that's around us. So when we bring those things together, we also have a lot more access to our intuitive nature, to knowing what to do when it happens. You don't have to think. And then as these threads of your life, or whatever journey you happen to be on, if you like to think of it as, this kind of soul journey of your life or whatever, they show up. And this is a thread I'm going to keep pulling on. This is a thread that will take me somewhere. And we know every time we've done that in our life, we've ended up exactly where we need to be, even if it sucked, right? Even if it totally sucked to get there, right? I think about, you just follow the steps, and sometimes you just don't have to think about it. But what I've noticed too is when you feel like you found an important kind of golden thread in your life, to remember to show gratitude for that, even if it's taking a long time, but there's something in you that trusts this might be a path for me, so you can remember. That's a hard thing for us humans to do, to remember to be grateful for what's happening when it's going well, to remember to tell the people on those golden threads, thanks, I'm grateful for you. This life is pretty cool with you in it, right?
Yeah, because without those people, or without an event happening or situation, at that moment, you're like, well, life sucks. And 3 months, maybe a year, however long it takes, you end up looking back, it's like, shoot, if that doesn't happen, this awesome thing that's happening now isn't happening. And so how important is it for you to help your players, help your kids, instill goals? Because without goals, like, there is no purpose.
Right.
Like, if you're not chasing after something or wanting to do something in your life, like, that in between part of life is like, well, what am I even living for? It's like,
right.
And how important is goals and dreams when you're teaching all these practices?
Well, especially when it comes to an athlete, they definitely have goals. Like, this is what they want to see. But one thing,
how detailed can you be, though, right? Because you could say, I want to be the next Shohei Ohtani, but, like, specifically, you only achieve goals, is what I'm learning now, is if you're literally detailed to the time, the day, and what you
some of that
exactly
is
want.
really important. So there is discipline in achieving our goals that we're not going to give up, right? So the way I like to call this is more of, instead of like a plan, a black and white plan from A to B, is we're putting in place a strategy. Because when you call it a strategy, strategies kind of can say, okay, I tried this didn't work. This strategy can lead to this knowing. This thing can lead to this thing. So to be too rigid in how you get from A to B can cause a fracture if it doesn't work out exactly as you want. But when we say, I put in place a strategy, and within that strategy are disciplines that I know that I have to put forth for my mind and body to be strong. And then kind of scattered in the points of that strategy are things that new that you can try out, things that little corner offsets within that strategy to enhance what you're doing, and also be flexible enough to say, okay, this particular part of this strategy didn't quite get me the results I want, so what's next? And when you have flexibility within your strategy, you're more likely to get to your destination. Even if it takes longer, you're more likely to get there a little more sane, a little more whole, and a little more happy with
Hmm.
the events in the journey along the way, you know? And at the same time, you know, I don't know anybody with a phenomenal story that didn't really suffer a big hardship or break or fracture in their life.
So
So
true.
that's okay. I think that everybody who found their calling that led them into something big, it was born out of devastation or grief or trauma.
Right.
Um, and,
And it's usually because it's something that we've wanted, but whether you believe in God or a higher power or you're spiritual, like that power has a purpose for you. And so even though you might want something, there's something else in your path that.
right. And we can be raised our whole lives relying on that higher power. But when, your feet hit the fire, it's harder to do when everything just fell apart.
Yeah.
Right. So this is where we talk about we can train that muscle too, to watch everything fall apart and be like, okay, what's going to be born out of this? I have a lot of shit to clean up and I have to deal with this and I'm going to be in the gutter for a minute, but I'm certain now that what comes after is going to be pretty cool. So that's another muscle we can train, another kind of connectivity within ourselves to say sometimes these things are handed to us as
Hmm.
as redirection. It's a detour, but that detour is actually what's most advantageous for us in the long run.
Hmm. Have you ever seen or heard of Jocko's podcast, that
Mhm.
military guy? Look him up. But there's this video that I always cross on Instagram, and he talks about how things happen, and his first thought is good.
Good.
So it's good that this happened because now I have more time to do something else. Or, it gives you another way of thinking, like, good, it happened. I'm grateful for it because now it helps me focus on something else, or gives me time to actually, you know, focus on another goal, or give you more intention on whatever else is actually needed in your life.
Well,
And
and
so
sometimes,
it's kind of a way of gratitude, but it's just like it's kind of tricking your mind, like, good,
right. And
you
we
know.
think about the word surrender also in a negative connotation, that this means that we are now, a flopping fish subservient to whatever happens. And that's not the case. We can be strong enough to surrender to the moment and open our heart to a little vulnerability to what's happening as a form of strength, right? As a form of acceptance. And that leads us to being stronger to perceive what can come good out of this, right? So when talk about, we use this word surrender as if it's some kind of
We
weak
think
word,
of it as a negative term, yeah, or
right?
we.
It is, and it's actually the opposite, right? Because it
Right.
wasn't until I know me and my history and my traumas and the things that led me here, I can be grateful for now. But in the thick of it, I was none so pleased,
Yeah.
you know. But it wasn't until I surrendered. This is what's happening to me, and this is where this is going.
It's almost
Then
like it is what it is.
I had the ability and the power to move on to the next, to not quit, to not keep fighting against what was happening or wanting what was happening to be something different. We waste a lot of our human energy and our power
Right.
in
Like you're
the
giving your power
suffering
away to something that isn't meant for you, kind of thing.
that isn't meant for
Whereas
you.
if
But
you
it's hard
accept it, you
to,
surrender. Yeah.
yes, and it's hard to
You
release those
keep the power and
programs.
you move on. Yeah.
Right, and mine came, I have a lot of children, or four of them, and they're mostly grown now. But, you know, there was this period of time where I thought, okay, they were really good incentive to say, here's what's happening to me, and subsequently them is what's happening. And my way to regain my power and create for us the best future I can is to surrender this, to let it go, and to carry us to a space that's not going to be easy, but to a space where we can thrive. Because the longer that I am fighting against what is, the more I prolong my own suffering. You know, there's a saying that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. It really is, because suffering is when we are choosing to fight against, or you know, what is. Suffering is us taking our pain and holding on to it as if it's going to change something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, you know, these are just other things. And a lot of people bring that into everything that they do. Your history of suffering can, in the background, kind of put a filter over everything you do. And so a lot of this work, too, is kind of slowly lifting the filter, you know, slowly kind of, you know, getting through the fog of it.
Yeah, like you're peeling the banana instead of
You're
peeling the onion. You're peeling the banana. You're
You're
just peeling the
peeling
layers
the
away
banana.
to get to the good stuff. But it's crazy how in this world one event can traumatize you for the rest of your life, and it usually, that event, if you don't work on healing that turns you into a person you maybe would not have wanted. Um, and so how does someone with traumas or bad situations that happened in their past, what what can what is something you like to do to, I guess, counter that? I mean, like, because it's like we hate living in the past. The more we live in the past, the more we're not focused on our present, and the more we can't focus on what we actually want in life and working on that process, which is our discipline and living by our principles. So
Right.
what,
So when we're
like,
working with trauma, and I do, you know, before all this, I became certified in trauma healing and all of these things too. So, and this was born out of also trying to
on a
heal myself.
spiritual level? Is that like on a
And all
spiritual
levels,
level?
psycho,
Oh,
spiritual, all
okay.
of these things, because they do go hand in hand. And that was one thing that I learned on my journey. I started, you know, doing this and then doing this and then do this, and then realized, oh, they're all the same thing. We just use different words for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, you know, we store our trauma in our psyche, but not just in our psyche. We store it in our body, we store it in our tissues, we store it in our fascia, we store it in our nervous system. And this creates basically a chronic dysregulated state in which we not just live in the world, but the way we feel and perceive everything that goes around us. And the problem is we can get so used to that state and be so unconscious of it that we make that our normal state, and we become absolutely unaware that it even exists. So when we go into the psychology realm of it, we have to add the body back into it, because this is a lot of times we have disassociated from the parts of our body that are in chronic pain, or that are not, um, that are storing all of these things, and ignoring them is the apps, and ignoring them and saying, I'm just going to try to have a better attitude, does not cure our trauma, not at
Mm-hmm.
all. But sitting with it in a safe space and trusting yourself to feel out and go back into your body and experience it again is actually the way out. So
Is
the
that like
thing
a
that we
form of release kind of thing?
it
I feel
is,
like I'm
it's
trying to
the
visualize it.
because the only way out is the way in, and the only way to you know, the only way to get to where you want to be is generally always to face all of the things that we're avoiding. Men and women biologically metabolize these things differently and store them differently. We store them as anger, we store them as sadness, we store them as grief, and it's just something that we can't seem to get past. And so when we reestablish the connection with our own heart, sometimes the first thing that happens is really uncomfortable. Sometimes people get a little more mad at me at first than they feel happy with me because I'm
Right. But
asking
they're not
them,
mad at you. They're mad at their
right,
situation.
right. And it's just no different than, your trainer who's pushing you to lift heavier. I'm asking you to
Uh-huh.
feel deeper. I'm asking you to feel into that thing. I'm poking triggers.
Right.
I'm
So,
plucking strings, and it's not pretty. And I'm gonna ask ugly questions. And I'm gonna ask you to really, really evaluate yourself. Like let's. I call it the radical truth serum because until we are willing to get radically, radically truthful with ourselves, um,
mhm.
we're unable to heal. So I don't believe that we have to go and talk over our traumas to the point where they re-traumatize us. But what we have to do is ask ourselves really difficult questions about our behavior and how we feel.
Hmm.
And you would be surprised how many times where we'll talk about a behavior or talk about something that happened, and I say, what did that feel like? And the person doesn't know. What do you mean, what did it feel like? Well, what was happening in your body? Where did you feel that? What do you
Yeah.
mean? Right? Which gives me an indicator that we have completely fragmented ourselves from once that trigger goes off, we will literally energetically split. And it makes it hard to be a focused human in that situation. So it sounds kind of esoteric and things, but it's not. It's just about asking a person to go back into themselves and having the courage
Hmm.
and the bravery to look into the places that they've avoided the most. And believe it or not, it's the most freeing thing that can happen. You will restore access to a new higher power that you never had before. All of a sudden, you have energy that you thought was gone. All of a sudden, you have power within you to create again because you wasted so much energy trying to keep this thing
Right.
out of
I'm
your.
I'm trying to visualize it as if like you have this dark thing happen and it's in a little box and it's in your head and you think it's gone because it's in a box and you stored it back, but in actuality that energy, that built up crappy energy, is still in you in a box, and unless you take off the cover and let it out and kind of express it, think about it however you need, that's the only way that it can
Right,
excrete out of your body, like you can
out
get
of
it
your
out.
body. Yep. And we
And so
talk
this,
about
well,
we
I,
talk
I was just
about
gonna
how
say
these things get
this kind
trapped.
of, yeah, it gets trapped, but like this reminds me. So I went through this emotional intelligence program that I told you about, and everything was, it was always about the coaches and your other fellow students with you. Anything we did at activity, it was, they were always telling us and reminding us that whatever you're feeling, whatever emotions you're feeling, it's because we're not attacking you personally. We're attacking the boundaries that you've set. We're attacking the walls that you've set because of that trauma. And so it kind of what you were explaining, how like you're pushing buttons. It's you're not attacking that client or that person personally. You're attacking the situation and the walls that they've put up because of that situation. You
That's
know.
exactly right. And the other thing too is to remember, those walls, those protective mechanisms, those programs, we have named our ego, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the ego expresses itself in these walls and all of these crazy things that we find that we can't get past. But also, when we attack the walls, we have to remember that those walls were built to protect you at a time when you were not capable of protecting yourself. So, another way to look at it is when these things come forward, is we can say, thank you. Thank you to my psyche, to whatever program, to whatever my brilliant mind and ego did to keep me safe during a time where I wasn't capable. And that's how that gets formed, right? And when we're grateful for that, we can say, I don't need it anymore. Thank you for your service. Thank you
Hmm.
for what you did to protect me when I didn't know how, but I don't need you anymore. And you're talking to this mechanism, this wall, this box, this darkness that comes out and saying, dang, you served me well, but now I don't, I don't, I'm
Right.
ready to feel this and
You're ready to
move on.
move on. You graduated, and
You graduated.
I kind like I know the feeling of accepting what has happened and understanding that I built walls around it, and then learning that what you just said, it was there to protect me, but being able to finally dive deeper and understanding why I built it, it's like now I can push that wall away and just
Right.
release it and then move
And
on
it's and
and
it's
have
less
more
having to
intention into what I want.
yeah, and it's less having to push it away. It literally just kind of dissolves. It crumbles right before your eyes and you're free. You know, it's really a process of
Disintegrates.
setting
It just poof.
it just poof. It's
Yeah,
exactly
it's
what
gone.
happened. It just poofs. So
So
yeah, and
so do you get this? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So you do this with players. Are you doing this because you are a owner and founder of Gracious Heart Healing Center? Is your tactics kind of the same? You
Almost the
know,
same.
is it this? Is it or could you take a player into the healing center and vice
Yes.
versa? Like, are you
Yes.
so
So they
so
go
you're running
together. Like
two
I
things
kind of
right now?
I
Okay.
am and but I have found that these two things kind of go beautifully, together.
Right.
And the
Right. They're very
goals may be
cohesive.
different. The goals may be different, but at an energetic level, the humanness that we are is the same, right?
Like in the healing
So,
center, are you practicing more spiritual
right.
biohacking side,
Yes, a little bit more
and
of
then
that, but
the athlete side where you're with the Cubs, that's more just kind of the mental performance, mental game, and
yes,
right. I mean,
yes,
like they obviously are very cohesive, but you it's almost it's almost like having Christianity and Buddhism, but they're literally the same. We all believe in a God.
right.
It's just
So
finding
it's
different ways to say it to people.
Yeah, it really does cross over beautifully. As I went through all of these I became just kind of this collector of knowledge and certifications. I did, the physical aspect, and I reached my peak, physical point, and went in to get the master's in bioenergetics, and I did trauma healing, and I've got my yoga teacher training, and I traveled all over the world. I lived in South America to learn from shamans, and I went to different countries and cultures and all of these things. um, but my knowledge and affinity for baseball has been prevalent my whole life. And I also have sons who played baseball, and I was able to see how bringing this kind of aspect of human development into athleticism, um, how that blossomed and how that worked. And it's basically a matter of me taking like the two things I love the most and
Right.
and
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 helping athletes through a healing
yes,
journey, like through a
yes,
spiritual healing journey.
right.
It's
So
taking
that's
the mental
basically
side of life and sports and putting it intertwined with the whole
right,
spiritual healing part of things.
right.
And
Because
and like
everybody's everything. Yeah.
mhm. with this with the healing center, do you do any like retreats or anything like that?
I don't have any like retreats. Those are something I'm definitely interested in doing, and I might hold my first one even this year. But I
Because I know
definitely
you do
do.
like your own personal ones,
Yes, I
right?
do.
You okay?
Um, I do. And then, um, but we have, you know, just out of the Healing Center, I offer lots of webinars on different modalities all the time, whether if it's you want to learn about your energy centers, and if you want to learn about a heart and grace-based way of living, um, all different topics. I do that. I do yoga classes from the center, and I do those online 3 times a week. Anybody can join those. And I do, I do one-on-one people, people who just have no interest in athleticism whatsoever, but they want to talk about the deeper aspects of themselves and delve into kind of that Pandora's box. So,
Right.
yes, and I
Because
do
what you're
that.
doing is basically a alternative medicine, alternative remedy of healing, right?
Yes,
And you're digging deeper into finding or hacking into the core of that spirit, that body, and that mind of how I can heal your body without medicine, without Western medicine, I should say. So are you
right.
doing any practices like with psychedelics or
I
saunas,
don't, I
like
don't,
everyone's getting into cold plunges, like other remedies.
right. I definitely, I'm not a practitioner of psychedelics. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not any of those things, but I can,
Hmm.
guide people to, or, I I personally lift weights 4 times a week. I personally do cold therapy. I personally have a pretty clean diet, as you know. So
Hmm.
these are things that I can say, work. I
You
personally
could
would
give
say
a
we're,
general
yes,
health protocol of like,
I could give a general
good
health
diet,
protocol. Oh,
health, sleep, here's
yeah,
some breath work you could do,
right.
and
I definitely offer meditation practices too and breath work. For me, I have some non-negotiables in my day. They are I lift heavy weights. I do a little bit of cold therapy and I meditate. And meditation for me is one of my non-negotiables. Whereas, for some people it might be something else. But I find that training that that fusion of letting my mind just be within the state of my being and my heart exponentially, um, it not just changes how I feel, but it changed how I exist in my life. So that's another one of those things that, you know, I like to talk about. I know that sometimes meditation, there's so many different types of meditation. We have the
right. So
meditation where,
could you explain a little bit of kind of what your meditation practice looks like?
well, my meditation
Is
practice
it
is,
is it like a sit in silence, eyes closed?
I like to do that. I use,
Is it
sometimes I
sometimes
use,
just a breath work? Like
sometimes it's just
what's
breathing.
going on?
Sometimes it is actually sitting in silence with myself and practicing just being, I let the mental programs of what needs to be, happen for the day go, and just go into that, other brainwave state that is restorative for me. There is so many kinds of meditation. So, and I teach and talk about those. There's moving meditation. There's people who find that space while they're walking. There's people,
It's almost like
obviously,
walking or yoga. Like they
or
take that.
yoga. All of those things are
It's a
valid forms of
practice of it.
meditation.
Hmm.
Yes, and not what and we'll find, and some people find this one works better for them. The goal of meditation is to make it work for you. So it however you get there is how you get there, because none of these practices help you if it's not conducive to your life, or if you can't make it
Right,
work for you at whatever state of consciousness you happen to be in. Um,
right.
so
Like
there's
you
so
want to
many
make those meditations intentional, and if you're,
intentional.
if you're not intentional about practices, then there's no use. It's almost like doing something half-assed. It's like the saying, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Mhm.
So if you're not intentional about that meditation, it's like find something that works for you.
Right. Right. And, I truly believe in so many practitioners coming together, I love having a team of people who say, I'm not this, but I know someone who is. I believe that holistically, there's so many different ways that we can heal ourselves. I don't have the answer to every single one, but to use these in coordination with each other is is a wonderful gift to have, and to have a network, of people around you who that you can say, here's somebody for you to talk to. Like
And
I
that's the
said, and not
power. That's the power of
yeah,
connection.
it is the power of connection. And like I said, there's some particular certifications I don't have, and there's some things that I partake in, but I am not the master to administer it. So,
Hmm.
but this is where we come together and share, in our
Right,
gifts
because
and
experiences still create knowledge. You might not be certified, but you've experienced some things
exactly,
that,
yeah,
you have some knowledge and could share with someone that, that might be interested because it might work for you and it might work for them.
right. And at the end of the day, one thing I found is that the credentials that someone has, or the letters after their name, or all of these things, at the end of the day, don't matter as much as connection. Who you
Hmm.
connect with teaches you more than somebody who has every certification under the sun that you can't create a true heart connection with. So,
Hmm. Like what I kind of laugh about is, and I might have some critics out there that will disagree, but you get tons of doctors that come in and they have the MD and PhD and all this, but all they're doing in their practice is handing out prescriptions of drugs instead of and putting a band-aid on people's sicknesses and illnesses, and they're not really healing a person.
right,
And doctors were meant to heal and cure people of sickness and disease, and be someone that anyone can go to trust them, to be like, hey, I have a problem, can you heal me? And it's
right,
just sad to see, oh, there's these high paid doctors and they're not really healing people.
exactly.
But I
I
think
know
that's
that,
also because they lost connection with the mind body spirit of how to actually
right.
heal and cure someone from the inside.
Right. And they lost connection with their patients. I mean, there's a study, and I can't even reference it or tell you where to look for it right now, but that the cure rate for people with chronic diseases is exponentially, like 100 times more higher for doctors who make a connection, like a
Hmm.
trusting, loving connection with that patient. So
Hmm.
it wouldn't matter what they did or what they prescribed as much
Right.
as it matters that they're feeling um, that, because
Feeling
a heart
connected,
connect,
feel a friendship, feel a
right,
love, rather
because
than
that heals.
just
Yeah,
you're just a value amount to me, and it's like the more patients I see, the more money I get, rather than,
right.
no, like it doesn't matter how many patients you get, it should be the amount of connections
Yeah,
and love and
connection.
health you're able to spread and share.
Yeah, connection at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then,
It
so
sounds
before,
so simple, but
no,
it's
but
true.
it literally is, like, we're all looking for love. It might not be intimate love, finding that partner, but we just want to surround ourselves with good people. No
Right.
matter how much, like, yes, be comfortable being alone at times, but in the end, human beings are meant to be surrounded by other human beings that are like minded.
Yeah, we are. We're herd animals, and um, you know, independence is great, but hyper independence is a trauma response because we need each
Right.
other. We need that kind of safety and that connection to thrive.
Hmm.
So,
We need people to keep us accountable, but also be there to support us,
mm,
and to love us. And the cool thing about you is that you're in this nonprofit with the Cubs, and you're helping these kids out, and that's another way of connection. And
it is, and
what
I feel
what
very
exactly are
passionate.
are you doing to help these kids and help?
Well, we I'm really passionate about this nonprofit, of being in a community where it's not just a certain level of financial privilege that could have access to these programs, or not even just about baseball here at the foundation. We offer tutoring, we offer mental health services, offer, a place to express and exercise and move in a community. For, it's not just for those who might, luckily have the means for this, but who can, I can spend time with, we can offer our facility in that sort of way. And it's a nonprofit, and, we do fundraisers, and we do all of these different things to try to keep this going, to make this happen um, for
Is
these
there
people.
is there any specific age you need to be like that a kid gets help, or is it like
No,
anyone?
anyone.
Anyone, and it could be adults too.
Yes.
Wow. And now, do you go into like foster homes, or like is there any
No,
connection like with that?
no, I would love to be able to do that. Right now, this is something that I kind of I administrate and do with, Hales as our head of the helm here. But we are still kind of in the birthing stages. We're a good few years old, but the idea of being able to offer more programs and things is still kind of something that we, work toward and strive toward. But we are here, an epicenter of this community. Our reach isn't as broad as we would like it to be. I hope that someday we grow to an extent that we can, but we are, kind of here. We're not just this big stadium up on the hill. We are, our doors are open, you know. So that's another thing I like about, being here.
It sounds like a safe haven for people in need. And I mean, you don't even have to be in need if you
Correct.
just want to be somewhere around great people. I think
Right.
that's the place to
And
be. If you're in Mishawaka, you're in South Bend, you're anywhere within driving distance. I mean, sounds like a great place to be, to one, work on baseball, but two, just
just be.
to find happiness and joy in life and just be.
Right. I myself was, when I was in a really, really dark place in my life more than 10 years ago, um, this became a comfort, a safe place. Now, this building wasn't here. We weren't the Cubs yet, but I came to this stadium. I didn't miss a game. I came here to feel safe, to have comfort, to be able to be around people, but be alone. I could just,
Mm-hmm.
I could, so this place and baseball in general was a salve for me when I needed it, in a way that's kind of hard to explain. Maybe I'll tell that story later, but it led me to here, to now I'm in this building and wanting to do that same thing. So, it's another thing on that thread of we never know what could happen in our lives.
Right.
Right.
But you kind of just stick it out, day
Yep.
after day, year after year. And when I was there in 13 and 14, and now 10 years later, there's this amazing facility out there. And you
Right.
guys are doing
Right.
amazing things with kids, the players, with families. It's really cool to see, and hopefully I can get back there soon.
Yes,
I
we would
definitely
love
need
to
to
have
see
you.
how that place has changed and what memorabilia of the South Bend Silverhawks there is that I could snatch up and put on my trophy wall here.
Yeah, we'll get
Because
you taken care of.
yeah, and I can see Hales again, and maybe we can have a glass of Maker's Mark.
He's got it waiting for you in his office. He's
Yeah,
ready.
it's so amazing to see he's doing so well after, when I was playing there, hearing about his health problems and health issues he was going through. And I mean, I'm pretty sure he told me a story of how I think he died in the bed one day, and he's like,
Yes.
I saw this and saw this, and then I came back to life, and I changed the way I was living, and whatever it is, I don't
Yeah.
know the story in details, but it's South Bend is kind
Yeah,
of a place of miracles.
it is
That's what it sounds
truly.
like.
Yeah, and me getting, Hales and I are just kind of a match made in baseball heaven. So,
Absolutely.
running this with
You,
him is just
you two are
fantastic.
doing amazing things. Now, have the South Bend Cubs won won a championship since
Yes.
I left? Because I know my first year in 13, we were in the championship against the Astros when Carlos Correa was actually playing in that league. And then in 14, I believe we got to the playoffs, but I was promoted to Visalia High. And so since then, have they won a championship or
Yes. We just did. So, let's see,
this year,
2022.
last year?
Yeah, we were Midwest League
Wow.
champs. That was a really great experience. To
Because it's
get
high A
to,
now, right?
it's high A now.
Is
Yeah.
it
So
high
that
A
was,
in 2022 as well?
yes, we are
Okay.
expanding. We're at the end of the final pitch of 2024. We'll be building another level up on the stadium.
No
More
way.
buildings, more to
I
come.
got a
So,
feeling that that stadium's gonna end up, or that team is gonna end up being a AAA team. Because the
yes,
AAA team is in Iowa, right?
yes. And we are just
But
a hop,
South
skip,
Bend
and a
is
jump
two
from
hours from
Chicago.
Chicago. It's a
Yeah.
2 hour drive, so
Yeah, and we
only.
have the premier facilities, so absolutely. That I can predict that in my little crystal ball
Well,
as
yeah, I
well.
remember when I was there, it was a bunch of ghetto stuff around there and some abandoned buildings. And
Wait till you come back. Just wait
yeah,
till
I
you
bet.
come back.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So,
Before we go, my last question to you is, and I actually want to start doing this for future podcasts because I just thought of it just from reading books and through some mentors and coaches. But my question is, what is your biggest dream in life? What is the one thing you want to achieve in life?
I think my biggest dream, um,
Like
personally,
if
is
you could do anything and money wasn't an issue, like
right. Well, and it's twofold for me. I'm realizing my biggest personal dreams of watching my sons become men, phenomenal humans, like in ways as a parent or as a mother you kind of dream of. So watching that happen and watching them flourish, that is my biggest dream, and I'm getting to see that unfold. I
so
would
being
love
super
to
mom.
have, yeah, I would love to have, a healing center that would employ lots of different practitioners, that we could, the Gracious Heart Healing Center is just a little seed of what I hope for to be someday. So my greatest joy would be to connect with more people on their journey of self-discovery, of 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 healing, of all of the aspects of what it means to be human, and to connect with people in that way. So I think that's one of my bigger future dreams, is to be able to offer something like that on a grander scale.
I love it. I love it because I've even mentioned to you I've wanted something like that where could bring the masses together to heal, to self-discover,
Hmm.
and just be a huge community of love and healing.
Yeah, and that
So
kind of connection and community is just priceless. It's kind of the joy of living, really.
no, it's totally awesome. I'm excited for you. Bigger things to come for you, and I'm so grateful to have you on here. Um, just getting started with this podcast, so I'm pretty sure we'll be back on again. And I look forward to our futures. And thank you again, Amanda.
Thank you.
Where
Thank
can
you.
people find you? Give me a website, social media for you, and then for the Gracious Heart Healing Center and the nonprofit foundation.
So you can go to sbcubsfoundation.org. That's where you can learn about the nonprofit and things we have going on. Um, you can go to First Source Bank Performance Center. First Source Bank is our name sponsor here. You can find me on Instagram, Amanda_Alwine. It's ALWINE. As of right now, I'm expanding my Gracious Heart Healing Center website, so that's a little bit under construction. It exists. You just won't be able. You can see that it exists, but that's still kind of growing. I'm looking to kind of streamline my programs a little bit more into something that people can buy in a different sort of package. I like the one-on-one, but I'm finding now there's only one of me and I can't replicate myself fast enough. So this might be
Not yet. Not yet.
yeah, not yet. I'd love to do that. But so yeah, lots of different ways. But anytime I will respond if somebody DMs me and would like to talk one-on-one. Um, any way you can get a hold of me. So
Well, perfect. Well,
awesome.
thank you again. Thank you, No Filter Network, the best podcast platform. Thank you, Amanda and the South Bend Cubs. Look forward to a great 2024 year. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Right.
We'll see you later.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
Aloha.
Braylon. Bye-bye.